Om Shanti.
Thank you, Om Shanti.
Om Shanti.
Gael, good evening.
Good evening, everyone.
Yeah.
Good evening.
Good evening. Yes.
So we may start, sister.
Sure.
So Sister Rupa, Sister Rika from the Brahma Kumari World Spiritual University. Our guest speaker, Professor Ved Prakash, Emeritus Ved Prakash Tural. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests. A very warm welcome to you all for the online monthly conversation with Professor Emeritus Ved Prakash Tural. At first instance, allow me to thank the Brahma Kumari World Spiritual University for conducting this monthly event as a means to raise awareness on issues that requires our attention. Today's theme being human rights and self-dignity. And before I leave the floor to Sister Rupa for the welcoming note, allow me to briefly introduce the topic. It's good to appraise that when we are referring to human rights, it's essential to have a look at the historical evolution of the concept of human rights, which has to be understood in the context of the history of human civilization, as there is no conclusive fact on the exact sources of human rights, and no one can vouch for the accuracy of any explanation about human rights. However, what's sure is that it has been disputed since the dawn of civilization by different religions, which have established and preached standards of morality, which are considered as common in all, and by this means promoting self-dignity. These standards and norms of morality have gained acceptance to such an extent that they are now considered inborn, inherent, unalienable, and indispensable for the survival of humankind. And the legal system of a state provides for human rights. And for today's session, definitely we'll refer to a Mauritian context and to our written constitution, which provides in itself for the Bill of Rights, guaranteeing human rights. And states are bound to adhere to this rule in the first instance and give adequate leverage to democratic ideals. And these elements helps to guarantee citizens of their unalienable rights and fundamental freedoms as a means to promote self-dignity. Before indulging of today's focus, which is a specific section of the Constitution of Mauritius, I would like to leave the floor to Sister Rupa for her address. Thank you.
Om Shanti.
Om Shanti.
Good evening to all our brothers and sisters present, especially to our dear brother, Professor Ved Prakash Turalji, his brother Gael, and the whole team. Once again, we are here to discuss on a new topic, and which is really very vast and quite interesting. So when we come to human rights, always we say rights and responsibilities work together. And if there is just we claim rights and the responsibility is not there, now then things won't work. So, as I said, it is a very vast topic, and everyone born on Earth, we just celebrated International Earth Day. Now, the planet Earth, everyone has a right to it. We are born on this earth, and I have a right to it. Now, so what is our responsibility towards it? Again, we come that I am a citizen of this country, so I have my right. So what type of right do we have in such situations? That means we come to our society, our religion, our community. We say, I belong to this, I have a right. So there are many types of rights. Now, just like in the family, each member of the family, now related to each other, we claim a certain right, especially the parents and children. Parents will say that I have a right on my children. I have to now do this for them. I expect this from them. And also, when the parents expect rights, they claim their right on the children. That means they also have to answer to the responsibility, to their duty. So between right and duty, this is my duty. I have to do this now for so and so. Now, so in this context, when we say it's my duty to guide my children. Now, on the other hand, we'll say it's my right now to expect this, my children to do this. Now, so they're both things, they are almost the same, but the way we present it, one is now with certain modalities, certain values in it. Now it's my duty, right? And they will say dharam. So dharam or karam, that is my duty, and accordingly I act to satisfy the needs of the one concerned. So we feel that just like on the other hand, we have the employer and the employee, the boss and the workers. Now they also I have certain right. Now they have employed them, they are working for me, I have a right. But above all, when we come to on these topics, there are a lot of things to be discussed. Still, when we come to the main foundation, when we say human rights, now so we are human beings. The soul and the body makes the human being. Then we can perform actions. But now before coming with the material thing, as with the body, the instrument, we are souls. And the soul is the creation of the Supreme Soul. And the Supreme Soul, just like there, we have the parents and the children. Parents expect that children will follow my traditions, my culture, my ways, and etc., etc. And children also, they have, this is my inheritance. They claim a right on the inheritance of the father. When we come to soul consciousness, the real being, I, the soul, now which is the right spirituality, spiritual being, then the creator is the Supreme Soul. And if now when we talk of the Supreme Soul, which is God the Creator, now God Father, now Param Pita Paramatma, now everyone in every language, we address to the Supreme Father, the Supreme Soul, the Creator, as our Father. And so being the children of the Supreme Soul, what rights he has on us and what rights do we have on the Supreme Father, and to what extent we fulfill the rights for God, the Supreme. We say He is the creator, He is the bestower of happiness, He is the ocean of peace, He is the ocean of happiness. Yes. What did we inherit from Him? What are the traditions that we have to follow, being the children of the Supreme Father, the Supreme Soul? We always, in our prayers, we say, He is the bestower of happiness and bestow unlimited happiness. Have mercy on us. All the virtues, all the good qualities, we sing the praise of the Supreme Father. But we say, as the Telpea Telfis, as it's the Father, so it's the Son. The Father shows Son, Son shows Father. And so to what extent I inculcate those qualities in me in every act we do. Now, so on physical level, we can be dealing with any type of case. But when we are using the original qualities of the soul, what we inherited from the Supreme Father, now though most of us, now we have forgotten those qualities and they have been replaced by all other qualities, which we won't call completely negative, but they are ordinary ways and not to the level of the awareness of who am I. Just like someone is very high standard in a village, and he will expect that others will give him that respect. He claims that right. In the same way, the Supreme Father's children, now when we are aware of this status of ours, the children of God, the Supreme Father, then in our each and every behavior, our action, our feelings, our relationship, in every way, now to what extent we are using our inheritance that we have got from the Father, and to what extent we are aware of that inheritance. Now, my original quality is peace. Everybody likes peace. Everyone likes to be happy. I am the embodiment of happiness. No one will say in the world today, now where we are going through that, I am really the embodiment of happiness. I am the embodiment of peace. Now, so just coming back to our own real foundation, now at the root, where we get that feeling of being connected deeply with the Supreme, the Spirit, with the Supreme Spirit, the Supreme Soul, and then we feel that those qualities, and wherever we are, so whether in the court, whether on the field, whether with our workers, with our colleagues, in the family, wherever we are, if we are aware of our original quality of peace, happiness, love, good relationship, bliss, all these qualities that we sing praise for the Supreme Soul, now these are our inheritance, but when we are using them in our day-to-day life, in our relationship with each other, in our work, whatever work we are doing it with that love, then those qualities will bring that unity, that harmony, that love, that happiness among all. And just imagine what will be our, how will be our world? First our family, our world, and so this will be a happy life. And that type of world is not far from us if we all now come to this realization and use those spiritual qualities that are deep within us, but we have to dig them out. I know I'm taking a lot of time now, so I thank you for your attention. Hope it will be a very nice and interesting conversation. Thank you so much for your attention. Sorry for I've taken a lot of time for it.
Thank you very much, Sister Rupa. So I would not say that you took a lot of time. I would simply thank you for, first of all, the words that remind us the values that we should cherish. So indeed, I believe that we are all here as peacemakers, and it's indeed true that we need to rely a lot on the pillars that you mentioned. So thank you very much for these inspiring words. As I said earlier, today our guest speaker will be talking about human rights and self-dignity. But human rights in itself is a very broad topic. Today's concern, to not say focus, will be mainly on Section 11 of the Constitution, which is about the freedom of conscience and its relation with self-dignity. Allow me to point out that Section 11 of the Constitution of Mauritius can be subjected to test in every instances. From the legal perspective, indeed, we have some case laws where the Supreme Court observed that we live in a secular state in which freedom of conscience is a fundamental right for every individual, and that freedom avails both the believer and the non-believer or freethinker, as freedom of conscience indeed includes freedom of thought and of religion, freedom of change, and also in belief. So without any delay, I leave the floor to Professor Tourol for his expose on human rights and self-dignity. Over to you, Professor Tourol.
Gail, thank you very much. And all our participants, a hearty welcome. And I would say again, in the words of again, Gail, I thank you. I thank the Brahma Kumari again as a very noble institution, and in particular Sister Rekha and Sister Rupa for their bold initiative to bring professionals together in order to look at issues have got deeper meaning in terms of law and spirituality. The whole objective of our being together is to enhance ourselves, empower ourselves to see how we react to situation in a context that we are living in this world, in order to broaden ourselves, to make ourselves more intellectually sound, to be wise enough to judge what is right and what is wrong. So I have firstly, I have to thank the organization as well of the Brahma Kumari, and in particular Sister Rupa and Sister Rekha for this, and Gail for actually leading, facilitating the process of this discussion. Both Sister Rupa and Gail, they have already encapsulated the gist, the very important elements of our discussion. I wish, like Sister Rupa was very apologetic that she has taken a long time. I wish she should continue, and we would not have the trouble, or we would not have the idea of stretching ourselves to continue. Sister should have continued with that. It was on a very good note, and I appreciated that very much. It's not question that I am the main speaker, but we have engaged ourselves in speaking together, right, and to share our experiences. It's not that I don't claim to have absolute knowledge of these legal and spiritual issues, but I would count on all the wisdom that our participants have. They could share as well, or they can ask questions so that we can all try to find solution. Having said so, Gail has already mentioned about our constitutional rights that has been entrenched in our constitution. We have got from section 3 to section 16, all are actually been entrenched in our constitution that safeguard, secure our fundamental rights and freedom. Importantly, we need to know which one the topic is related today. Gail mentioned about dignity, self-dignity, but in particular, he has mentioned about section 11 of the Constitution, which is about freedom of conscience. Now, I have to make it very clear right from beginning. There's the legal side of it, which we always say the Constitution has given us a freedom of conscience according to section 11. That's the legal side of it. Then there is also the social aspect of it, how we live in our society with the freedom of conscience, and in what way would the spirituality help in enhancing, empowering us to behave in the way that it has been ordained to be. Gail did mention that we do not know the origin of human rights, which is true, exactly, because we don't know from time immemorial. We will not be able to say that fix any time limit or determine anything in a very precise manner. Where did it begin? But obviously, if we go by the natural law theory, which had been advocated by St. Thomas Aquinas, right? Which obviously we have got our belief in spirituality doesn't originate from St. Thomas of Aquinas. It is since the inception of our natural law theory by divine rules. These are the ones that would be the source of our human rights, enjoying the human rights. But then to put in a concrete form where exactly it originates, obviously we go by our religious beliefs, we go by our theological, philosophy that we have. Beyond all this, let's start talking about from 1948, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. That's where all the states in the world are complying to the Human Declaration of Human Rights that actually gives us the proper definition of human rights, where, as Gail mentioned, the dignity of the self. How we have to respect each other. Because after the Second World War, there was obviously an erosion of human values. There was nothing like after the Nuremberg trial and all that, after the defeat of Germany in the Second World War. Now, nothing was nothing in place regarding the values, the respect that we need to have. Therefore, there was a need. The United Nations came up. The organ was the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which is a very, very important foundation for a beginning of, human rights provision. Taking from there, our own constitution has, in fact, taken a lot of those broad principles of human rights and included in our constitution. So all the sections of section 3 up to 16 are broadly paraphrased from the Human Declaration of Human Rights. We take from there. Now let's come to specifics. It's about the freedom of conscience. When we talk of freedom of conscience, what does it mean? Gail mentioned about the section 11, which is obviously about freedom of thought, freedom of religion, freedom to change the religion of belief, right? And belief in worship, and teaching, practice, and observance. So on the one hand, we have got thoughts, the thinking. The second instance is the practice. So both in the form of thinking, right? We need to have that freedom to think. And actually, after thinking, we need to have the freedom to practice. Two things are actually being incorporated in our section 11 of our Constitution. Belief, which is thought, and practice as well. We must look at this. But then, Sister Rupa did mention something. Duties, rights, and responsibilities. There is no right that is an unconditional right. Every right has got a corresponding duty. Each right that we have, right of walking on the road, we have to observe our duty to protect other road users. We can't be driving on the right hand side of the road because we may endanger the life of other road users. So as much as we have to respect, we have to be actually conscious of our own rights, but we have to have the obligation to respect the rights of others. So rights and responsibilities go together. At this time, let's talk about the freedom of conscience. What exactly would be the freedom of conscience? Gal did mention about court cases, a lot of case laws regarding this. Now, one particular case law that I looked at, it gives a summary, a sum total of the whole philosophy. What the court is saying, conscience is an emphasis on individual and the individual judgment, right? It lies at the heart of our democratic political tradition. Let's look at this. Each word has got a very profound meaning. First of all, say it is an individual conscience, individual. When we say individual, it becomes totally subjective. My own conscience. When I'm dictated by my conscience, it is not the conscience of somebody else. When we are dictated by our conscience, we have to be conscious of, Sister mentioned about consciousness, and that consciousness is about to decide what is right and what is wrong. And that's personal. It's very subjective. We cannot be dictated by the conscience of another person. So it cannot be objectively assessed, but it is mostly personally assessed and to be implemented and executed. So therefore, we have to look at the personal element of conscience. Because when you have the conscience, it is the thought process. The thought process, if we have to look at it, it is mostly our mental ability to judge what is right and wrong. If we have to go by the mental ability, is the level of intelligence, is the level of knowledge that we have. That is the level of knowledge will direct, will actually condition our thought process. If we are not exposed to learning, we are not exposed to profound knowledge on certain issues, like we are all here, all of you have got certain knowledge on what is law, what are the practice of the law, and the spiritual part of it. Everyone knows about it. I'm not talking anything new here. We are all conscious of certain basic fundamental principles of the law, the practice, and spirituality. All of us know that. So it is the thought process, the mental ability to have in us the profound knowledge of certain issues. That's what we are discussing about. Then after that, how does it come about? After our mental enrichment, then we come to our wisdom. The wisdom part of it obviously comes to the practice, to how to practice it. When we are looking at wisdom, it's simply the application of our mental knowledge, the store of knowledge that we have. It is actually the wisdom would guide us whether what is right and what is wrong. And this is where morality comes in. In the form of morality, it's about the moral standard. And obviously, a moral standard has always got different shades of meaning, which we have to be careful. But if we have to go by moral standards, which obviously Gail has mentioned about the moral standards, and those standards should actually, in fact, in a normative way, what we should do. The normative science tells us that what we should do for the welfare of ourselves and the welfare of others, to what is right and what is wrong, what is good and what is bad. That's the wisdom will direct us to judge the moral standard by which we are going to apply our knowledge that we have acquired, and then the wisdom will tell us what is right or wrong in our decision making. Then all these will be actually, it shows our intellect, our mental aptitude, and our wisdom to apply shows the intellectual part of a person. That intellectual part is very important, where we have reached a higher level of application of our wisdom, which now come closer to what we call spiritual deliberation. All these are chained together, they are in line together, they follow each other. No one can detach. Once any of the component is detached, then we lose out the spiritual part of it. Many of us in the society, I'm talking about us, many people, right? They have the intelligence, but what you call the skill to apply the wisdom, that's lacking. And what's in lacking? It breaks the chain. Then there is no that theory of, let's say, the connection. We do not have. And obviously we lose the intellect part of it, and obviously the spiritual aspect is lost completely. So when we look at the court decision, it says that it's an individual conscience, right? And then it's an individual judgment. So the judgment would be, right, obviously, the facilitating point, the way it originates is our mind. How do we? It's our thought. The thought will obviously have to actually be in a mold where we can say that, no, this is our thought, and ultimately, whatever thought we have, it will build up our character, our behavior, and the way to do the action. And that action should have only one resulting, force. That result should be good. Good for everyone. Good for all. Like, for example, it may be painful. The doctor is carrying out the surgery. It's painful, but it is good for the patient. In the same way, whatever we do, it may be like a teacher punishes the child. The parents punish the child, but ultimately will have children in a disciplined, brought up in a disciplined manner. The bringing up would be sound, and people will really love to have children like this, and they will turn out to be good citizens of the society. So our presentation is mainly based on the legal aspect. And that's what we have to be very careful about. How do we actually use law, morality? How do we use morality for decision making? And that will be good, should be of how the beneficial for everyone. Now, at this time, we have got an individual judgment lies at the heart of our democratic political tradition. There are two things that are very sensitive in life: a personal belief in terms of religion, and personal beliefs in the rituals, personal beliefs in what the traditions are. Those we cannot convince, we cannot say that yours is better or mine is better. We cannot say that. Each one has got his own personal view of all these personal thoughts. So we cannot actually dictate terms on that. But however, through our wisdom, through our intelligence, through our intellect, we can reach to that level where spirituality will be able to build up relationship, to bring up about a purpose in our life. So in that respect, we are looking at a democratic political tradition. Now, the word democratic itself is a very sound philosophical principle where respect to individual, respect to the community, the respect to the state, all these are encapsulated or put together. And our constitution is the main secured document that would give everyone the possibility of getting the self-esteem, build up a dignity for himself in wherever we go, like sisters mentioned about work, dignity at work. How do we create dignity at work? Every one of us are professionals, we go to work. Are we happy to go to work? The thought that we have got, freedom of actually looking at our work in a way that we feel that we are closely associated with the method, the techniques of how we are operating and our building our personal relationship with our colleagues, our superiors, and maybe our junior staff. All these are part of actually enriching ourselves, empowering ourselves in terms of our thought process, right? How our conscience will tell us whether this is right to do or is it wrong. So having been empowered with all this, then we can decide that our decision is a correct decision. So in that respect, we have got a value system that we got to adopt that will guide us. That guide is very important. When whichever profession we take, there is ultimately we have to do, it's our duty to carry out certain things, but ultimately it should be beneficial to the person you are giving the service and to the community. So it is what you call a conscientious reason. You're conscientious about your own duties, your own responsibilities. So the thought that we have got has got a very, very strong link, strong connection with your action that you're going to take. And that it's a very, very close relationship when you talk about law, freedom of conscience, and it is the thought that matters a lot, how you actually work out your thought process in order to give a better result to your action. That action, which obviously has got the spiritual element in that. So in that respect, we have to look at the broad principle of looking at the divine rules or where we got it from the very early stage of our civilization, that when we have got the divine rules be the prescription by which we should actually act and behave in such a way that it will bring, like sister mentioned, harmony and peace in our society. So in that respect, I won't be very long, but just to make a final a final observation on this, that the topic that we have chosen, Gail has chosen, that I think that what he meant is that how the fundamental rights that have been entrenched in our constitution, section 11 of freedom of conscience, how does it lead us to a spiritual upliftment? How does it actually, we need to be conscious of this provision of the law to uplift ourselves, to bring up to the standard of spirituality, whereby, as sister mentioned, to bring the harmony in our society. This is the line of thought that we have to look at. Obviously, when talk of conscience is about our thought process, and then the thought process doesn't end there. Our section 11 of the Constitution talks about the practices. The practices should also be actually connected to our good ways of thinking. So if our thought process is wrong, or maybe it is right, but the practice is wrong, then the spiritual aspect is lost. So all should be in synchronization. That is, our thought, our conscience, that will dictate to us whether it is right or wrong. And once we have already, our thought has already given us some sort of ideas of, if we do this, then there will be goodness in the society. Everyone will feel happy, will feel to live in harmony. Everyone will have a social actually togetherness in their living, in the method of living. Then we can establish that spiritual level, which Sister has mentioned, that this is not too far. If every one of us look into the same direction and bring us our thought process and our conscience in the dictates of what is right and wrong, then we achieve that level of spirituality. Then they're bound to be what we have engaged ourselves in, to bring harmony, to give a good direction, a sense of discipline in our ways of living, and definitely happiness will be very much ensured. Now we leave it to Gael. Please, if you have got any question to ask, I'll be very happy to answer. But the floor is open to anyone. Anyone can make suggestions. This is my broad presentation of what we talk about section 11 on freedom of conscience. Thank you very much. Om Shanti.
Prof, I can't find my words because it was so interesting and amazing. By finding actually the relationship between self-dignity, conscience, taking it from an over perspective, which is not the legal one, and indulging ourselves into the inner belief and the inner way of assessing things. Yes. So maybe I have one question. You know, when we're talking, you've been referring a lot to wisdom. Yes. You know, I don't think that I got wisdom. I'm sure that you have. So tomorrow, how are we going to strike the right balance between the freedom of conscience and expecting that we are wise in making a move, in promoting not our self-dignity, but as said by Sister Rupa at the beginning, taking it from the broader perspective. We ought to become peacemakers, and therefore there's a need to have the right words at the right moment. But actually, somehow we are motivated by other factors, and we might lose, you know, this real conscience, this real way of perceiving things. So maybe what would be your advice?
As I mentioned to you, Kyle, a very good question, which is very profound. Let me tell you, and this cannot be answered in 2 lines. It's quite how do I say? It has got many implications, subtle implications. Like, for example, if we talk of wisdom, wisdom is the next step to mental upbringing. Because once we have got the intelligence and we have acquired the right knowledge, then comes to the application of it. It is the application part of it that requires a sound moral principle. We have the story of King Solomon's, the wisdom of King Solomon. Gail, I'm sure you must have read and heard that. The wisdom, that's where I think the basic knowledge of wisdom comes in, where there were 2 mothers fighting for a child, right? And they feel that, that each one is claiming that this is my child. And King Solomon was in a dilemma. He didn't know whom to say that this is the child that belongs to which mother. He didn't know. But the wisdom that he had, the intellect that he had, the application that he made is that he said, okay, now each one is claiming that, the child belongs to you. Give me the child, I'll cut the child into two and then give each one one half. What is the reaction? See the deeper meaning of this. What King Solomon was trying to do was in fact to test the innermost, you know, the emotional part of the mother. So the mother, who's actually legitimately the child belongs, she said, no, 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 don't cut the child, give the child to the other lady, meaning thereby, at least my child would be alive. This is a very clear example of application of the intelligence of the mind, and that results into good and wise decision, by which King Solomon said that, you know, the child belongs to this mother, because the emotional attachment that the mother has with this child obviously demonstrate that the child belongs to her. So in that way, what I'm illustrating is simply that there is a strong connection between knowledge and the application of that knowledge. Wisdom is simply the application. And that when you apply, what is the result? What is the outcome? What is the consequence we are waiting for? Right? It should be good for all. Like, for example, in any court case, there must be someone who loses the case. There is someone who wins the case. The one who wins the case obviously is very happy. The one who loses will be dejected. But the dejection part of it is the issue here. Did the person who lose the case, did he actually know the reason why he lost the case? If the judge can explain why you lost the case, then that's wisdom. It's not a question of winning that is the show of wisdom, but it is the fact that you have lost the case and giving the right meaning to why you have lost. That is the one that shows the wisdom, not the one of winning. So application of it has got one thing: thinking, the process, and the outcome. Three things are very important. They are interconnected. So how do we think and how do we process our thinking process? Obviously, couched with knowledge. And thirdly, the consequence out of it, the result that follows. It is the result that determines the entire process, whether it was right or wrong. So the ultimate decision is the means are counted. The means are counted, and then we have seen the result is the ultimate, the determinant factor by which we judge our thought and our application of our knowledge, which is wisdom. Gael, I don't know if that answers the question.
Thank you very much, Prof. I guess that actually using the example of King Solomon, which is a tale that most of us, I believe, had the opportunity to listen during our childhood, is indeed a very good example. And making use of our knowledge is, I believe, is also a cornerstone, is ensuring that we are adjusting the proper conscience to self.
Exactly.
So thank you very much, Prof. So anyone from the session who would like to intervene, if ever you want to send your question via the chat box, I'll read it for you. Else, just unmute yourself.
We've got quite a few very good participants here. I would love to hear from them and their contribution as well.
Those following us on the YouTube can place their questions on the chat there.
Maybe, Gael, that there is everything is clear. That's why there is no need for any. I don't know. Maybe.
Shanti?
Yeah. You have someone who would like to intervene?
Yes, Sister Nidhi here.
Sister Nidhi, over to you.
I don't know how to formulate the question. Is that we're talking about liberté d'expression.
Yes, yes.
I wanted to know if, for example, if someone is restricted from this liberty of speech,
Yes.
how do we proceed from that?
If you are
C'est-à-dire,
restricted.
si on
Yeah.
empêche quelqu'un d'avoir cette liberté d'expression,
Mhm.
qu'est-ce que la personne peut faire vraiment? According to law, I'm going according to law.
According to law. First of all, our constitution guarantees that that you have the right, the freedom of expression. You have got that. That we cannot. It's been entrenched. When we say that this provision has been entrenched in our constitution, means that it cannot be taken away from anyone. Everyone has to enjoy that. Now, if somebody's freedom of expression has been taken away, then obviously the recourse is to go to the court for relief. Okay, that's the only way. That's the democratic procedure which has been given in our constitution, that the right to find relief for anything that you feel that you have been deprived of, then definitely the only way to have the recourse of the court in order to find relief of the issues, the problem that you may be complaining about. So this is the only way, but definitely not by force, not by illegal means. So in our democratic approach, we will have to go by the court procedures. Anyway, your question was very good. Thank you so much. And if
Thank
you
you for
want
the
to add,
answer.
if you want to add anything, we'll be very happy to hear.
Yes, I would like to add something.
Yes, please do.
I didn't see this aspect of whatever you've been talking tonight.
Yes.
I'm really amazed. I mean, there are many aspects that we don't discuss openly,
Yes.
and I'm amazed to discover these
Thank
aspects
you.
you've been talking, and this spiritual aspect as well, Sister Rupa mentioned.
Yeah.
To speak frankly, I didn't see things this way before that.
Okay.
So
Okay.
thank you, both of you.
Okay, thank you so much. It's a pleasure all the time to have a mutual, a reciprocal feeling about certain issues, certain topics. But we are here always, and we value your input as well. Okay, thank you so much again. Yes.
Thank you very much, Professor and Sister Nidhi. So I would like just to share an observation for our distinguished attendees. It's good to point out that while pondering over today's session, we were discussing about which section of law are we actually to appraise. And I would like to thank Sister Nidhi, because I frankly believe too that maybe having a session on freedom of expression is maybe another avenue that could be considered in the coming months.
Very well said, Guy. Yeah, would be very happy.
I would like to add an observation, if time
Yes.
permits.
Yes.
During your deliberation, Professor, you talked about how informed we are in terms of knowledge. We know everything. We know much more than a generation before, and next generation maybe they will be knowing more than us.
Yes.
So an explosion of knowledge. And then you also talked about the application of that knowledge, the ways in account, and that tells us about how wise we've become, about wisdom. But you also mentioned about spirituality and in the third place. And that if I have knowledge, but I'm unable to apply in the right way, then it's that I lack spirituality.
There'll be disconnection there.
And you also pointed out somewhere trying to define that thing called spirituality, because it's so, when we talk about spirituality, there are so many conceptions and misconceptions.
Yeah.
But what I get from what you explained to us is the whole thing of if you want to fit in spirituality into that, chain of knowing and right application, knowing and applying the right way in the right manner.
Yes.
It will be all about, has it brought good, something good to everybody?
Yes.
And that
There
could
is a-
be the final or ultimate goal of justice.
Yes. That's right.
And-
That's right.
Uh,
This will be the determinant factor.
Yeah, and I think that we should not just place it at the end to check whether things have gone in the right way, which we put
Yeah.
spirituality at the end. So let's put the thinking and then put the application and the wisdom, and then check it, use it as a yardstick to check whether things have gone wrong
Yeah.
or right.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
I think that spirituality should be applied at all levels, at my thinking level. Will that bring
Yeah.
into all at my application level? Will that bring
Yeah.
benefit to me and all, and not allow it just to to use
Yeah.
that spirituality at the end, because that might be, yes, of course it will bring realization and corrections for next time, but it might be too late, because we deal with lives of people when we are dealing with
Yes.
matters.
True. Yeah. Good. Very well said. Very well said, Ben. Benji. Very well said. Yeah. You have summarized the whole all that we have talked.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sister Rika. So I think we have also reached the end of the session. So if you allow me, I will now leave the floor to Sister Rika for the meditation.
Thank you, Brother Gael. I invite everybody viewers on Zoom and viewers on YouTube to join me for a very short 2 or 3 minutes of meditation, because we've already reached the end of our timing, but we, I believe, have to give ourselves a few thoughts, some reflection on what we've been hearing and contributing, so that we have these 2 minutes time to digest in our mind and in our heart what we've been taking today, and will carry it forward into our life, our family, personal and professional life. So just 2 minutes of meditation. We're going to meditate on this whole issue of the right conscience, freedom of conscience. So I ask Vaishnavi to please share a visualization that is going to allow us to focus our mind more on ourselves, our inner self. So everybody just sit back, relaxed. Take a few long, deep breaths. It helps to focus and to think what is happening inside us. So every time you breathe in, turn your mind away from the world out there that has been engaging our minds and hearts, our souls throughout the whole day. Breathe in, detach from the external physical activities. Just turn in and be you, be in the now. Past, forget the future, just be here, be in the now. And do it with your eyes closed or open as you wish. Now I'm totally tuned with myself, my inner self, the one who I am inside, the thinker. Of my thoughts and feelings. Now to connect to my heart, to the one who feels, who have emotion, to the one who thinks, who discerns, discriminates, and I'm now connected to that part of my being that take decisions, that decides to apply things in a certain manner, the one that decides all behaviors, actions, and reactions. I'm now connected to my spirit, my spiritual self, that non-physical person that I am inside. It creates thoughts, decisions, actions, and responses to life experiences. I'm no more the one in action out there in the physical world. I am for a few minutes that spirit, that soul, that I, that me, who is in action inside throughout the whole day, active. Behind my physical role and responsibilities, my duties, my profession, I'm me, the spiritual self, who lives and interacts with other spiritual selves, other souls. And my inner nature is peace, love, joy of life, wisdom, purity, honesty, goodness, beauty. This is my inner nature, my true religion, my faith, my belief. And I realize that all these divine virtues or principles are also the divine nature of all beings around me. We all belong to one source, one God. And we were made in his image of peace, love, truth, joy, freedom, goodness, justice. We have the same belief. And when I'm connected to my divine nature and the divine nature of every being on this planet, it's easy to think right and to choose the right way to apply knowledge and to bring the highest benefit to one and all. I can do that. I can be very practical and professional, but at the same time, I can be very much connected to my divine qualities, my inner nature, and relate to the inner nature of others. Om Shanti. I am peace. Thank you. So on behalf of the Brahma Kumaris of Boswell, it gives me much pleasure to thank Professor Doyle for your high wisdom, your spirituality, your knowledge, all three. You've been able to share with us as the greatest gift of life, all three. And we are so thankful and grateful. I also would like to thank Brother Gael, and I know Brother Gael and Brother Professor Tual has been working hard behind the scenes, behind the curtain meeting to discuss and finalize today's conversation. Thank you for sparing so much time, and it was beautiful what you shared today. It opened, because when we think of the legal profession of lawyers and law, we had a completely, different kind of perspective. Now we feel like it's not something far away from us laymen who are not in the legal field, but we are so much connected. We all belong to that field, and we have a contribution to make. So thank you, Brother Gael. Thank you, Professor. And thank you, L'équipe Technique, who works behind the curtain, but make sure that everything happens sharp and right. There is no disruption in the conversation. And thank you to all those we have invited and who have joined us. They are on the Zoom, and some are on the YouTube. Thank you so much for sparing your time. We will meet in a month's time. It always happens on the last Thursday of every month, 7 to 8 p.m. Donc, je vous donne rendez-vous. We will be in contact with you, and we'll be sending you invitations. And we would also like you to be part of the conversation. And so please feel free to express, to put questions. We don't want it to be a talk or a lecture, because that we get everywhere, but here we want it to be an open platform for conversation, for sharing, for discussion, for the benefit of one and all. So wish you all a very, very pleasant evening and a coming good weekend, and see you in a month's time. God bless you. Om Shanti.
Om
Thank you.
Shanti, Behan. Om Shanti.
Shanti, everyone. Bye-bye.